28th, 2014. This is Personal Empowerment for Your Soul. I'm Jean Morey, and my co-creator is Maggie Lukowski. Hi, Maggie.
Hi, Jean Morey. How are you today?
Wonderful. And you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. It's a beautiful day here. It feels like fall, and we're in the same kind of estate, but not in a different neck of the woods. But I was looking at the date today. It's almost the end of the month, and we're at the 28th, and that's a 1 in numerology, and that's a magician in the tarot deck. And so it's a day filled with magical possibilities, and the magic is always in us. And then the card I pulled for this week, I pull a rune card every week, and it's from Mary Nail's rune deck, and it's called Burkano. And the meaning is birch tree, new beginnings, and new adventures. And its gemstone is moonstone. And we just came off of a new moon period. So it's kind of perfect. And the herb associated is lady's mantle, and the color is dark green. So when I think about this, it's about putting the past behind and start planting new seeds. And we'll need to nurture them, allow them to grow in their own time. It's about believing, protecting, and most of all, having patience. So it's at magicians. We've got everything, but we've got to go ahead and take some action. So for the rest of the story, you can always watch my weekly vibes on my YouTube channel, Maggie Moon Tarot. So wishing everyone a magical week. Namaste.
Oh, thank you, Maggie. Because we have a magical guest on our show, Beth Henry. She's the woman behind the YouTube channel, Divinationery. Her personal study of divination began long before starting Divinationery. By completing coursework and study in herbology, spellcrafting, Reiki, and tarot, she built a strong foundation of knowledge while attuning herself to the world. So she's a contributing author for Attune Magazine, a tarot deck reviewer for several major publishing companies. And through her videos, she hopes to offer a place to enjoy and learn about the many sides of divination, with a bit of magic thrown in for good measure. Whether it's using herbs, gemstones, or tarot, she is passionate about sharing her knowledge and experiences with all forms of divination to help others open up and discover all the wonderful things life has to offer. So welcome, Beth.
I am so glad to be here. So glad to be here with you guys.
We're so glad
We're excited to have you on. Yeah.
So how did you get started in working with your intuition? How did you know you were an intuitive?
Well, actually I got involved with the tarot back in college, and I wouldn't say it was a very in-depth study. There was an interest there, and life kind of happened, and we have kids, and it wasn't until the end of 2011 and the start of 2012 that I really started getting interested in tarot. And I took a class, and it was like a door had opened. It's like little lights came on, and all this, I feel like, a lot of us are very in touch with the material, but we've kind of been out of touch with the spiritual, and tarot was my way to tap into the spiritual again, and it became my passion right off the bat, so very early on. So I love tarot for that reason, is that I feel like it really opened me up spiritually.
Yes, there's many ways. Go ahead, Maggie.
Oh, that's what I was saying. I think it's learning also to trust your intuition.
Exactly. And, I think a lot of us, when we first learn tarot, is we learn from a very logical and left brain side. You learn all these little keywords or what this one card could mean. and then you read a book and you add some more to your list of this is what that card could mean, and then you watch some videos or you hear other people read, and before you know it, you have this big long list of this and that a card can read or can mean. And then as you develop, I think you start to grow into your intuition. But I think the problem with that is that when we start to grow into our intuition, nobody really is there to show us or nurture us as to trusting ourselves or trusting that intuition, and we start to develop this fear that maybe what we're seeing isn't quite right. And that's why I started Divinationery, so it could kind of provide people just this enriched soil to grow their intuition and learn how to trust the synchronicities that are around you and develop your belief that what you are seeing is correct, that you're getting the right message, that you're picking up on the right vibe from that card.
Haven't you found out that when you read for people that one card may mean many things for different readings?
Oh, absolutely, and that's why, it's important for people to take that step to using intuition and logic in their reading, because those 78 cards have got to mean anything that can happen to you in this lifetime, in the past or in the present. So you've got to be able to see beyond the basic words.
It's interesting because you can look at a card and one thing or one color or one item on the card can kind of all of a sudden catch your eye that you might not have seen before, or it's the deck creators, done something a little different. And, that's kind of an intuitive hit to trust and learn to trust what that is. And
yes,
be
absolutely.
able to talk about that with, with your client.
Yes, a very good thing to do, and I know this has been said before, is to keep a journal. And, when somebody first told me that, I was like, I don't have time to write. But, you have to have a way for you to be able to pick up on all these things that you are synchronicities in your life, the things that, yes, you said this in your reading, and then it happened. And then the more you see that, the more you start to trust those intuitive messages that are coming through. I know in one reading that I did, somebody had lost an item. And I kept getting the Chariot, and I said, this item is in the garage. And they say, oh, no way. I would have never put that thing in the garage, never. So, what do you do when you're a new reader? If that first card wasn't right, you just keep flipping cards till you get the right answer. But I kept getting the Chariot. And I said, I'm sure it's in the garage. Well, come to find out, the item was in the room that used to be the garage. They had made it into a living room.
Oh, so my gosh.
The cards were right. It was in the garage, but, it's not until you start saying, hey, I was right there. The cards were telling me right, that you start saying, okay, so next time I can trust what I'm feeling and picking up on is going to be right as well.
That's true.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because we can do that even in our daily lives, just when we get those intuitive hits and you just kind of write it down and then see, at the end of the day what happened,
right.
With your intuition. And I think it gives people confidence that to start trusting your intuition and listening. Because I think we get busy, too, and we forget, we think, oh, no, you just don't listen to it. And then later on you think, oh, that, if I would have listened to that would have saved me some time. I wouldn't have been in this jam.
Yes, exactly. Do you guys find that pulling a card at the beginning of the day is better or at the end for you?
I used to do it at the beginning. I don't do it anymore. But when I was learning the Voyager deck, I used to do it every day. But the strange thing I found with doing it, it would be the message for the next day.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. And they don't point out what day it is, do they?
No. Pamela Steele is in the chat room, and she said both. She pulls one in the beginning and the end. I find if you pull one at the end, sometimes I will do that for dream work.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And it helps me kind of maybe look at, maybe in my dream, something I might need to look at or some area. It just kind of moves me forward with my dream work.
I found that when you're newer to the tarot, it usually works best to pull at the end of the day, because then you can reflect back and relate it to that card. You know, and that kind of helps you see in that card the synchronicities during the day, like we were talking about. Yeah. Then as you get a little more secure with the cards, then I start pulling at the beginning of the day, trying to pick up on what was going to happen, you know. So using your intuition both ways, like when you're new, it kind of helps you see what happened during the day in that card, and then when you get a little bit better, you know, branching out there and pulling it at the beginning.
What would you do if you pulled the Tower card in the beginning of the day?
Probably go back to bed. Yeah, I mean, you got the chance. It's, you know, it's not always going to be the Sun card or some good card. I think that I would be more cautious during the day. I mean, it's kind of like a sign. Just like when you're driving down the road and you see a sign that says, road work ahead, you know, merge to the right. That's what I think tarot does. There's signs telling us, hey, be careful. You know, watch out. Be extra careful today. So I think I'd just be more cautious.
Yeah, and I think the major arcana cards they're the big cards and they're big messages. If we're doing it on a daily basis, it maybe doesn't have the impact that it might have in a full-blown reading. So sometimes the dailies, or even though they're major and they seem to be, you know, they can be, but sometimes, like you say, it's more like, you know, maybe be a little more careful, or, you know, there may be change coming and kind of prepare yourself for it, or there's, you know, it could be more of a minor message, or...
Right.
That's right. Go ahead. Do you do any work with the angel cards?
I have just really started getting into the oracles, you know, and like the angel tarot, and I like it, but I wouldn't say that I'm just very knowledgeable about it. It's something I'm starting with because I've noticed that there is a big swing towards angels lately in tarot, and a lot of interest, people asking about angels and different decks for angels.
Because you review decks, you're a deck reviewer, and then you're also, I've noticed in some of your videos, you've really had some interesting, you're a deck collector too, of some of the older cards. Yeah, you had a particular interesting... Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, you had one where you compared all the different versions of the Rider-Waite-Smith, which was interesting. I didn't know about all the different ones that you had collected and the differences in the colorations. And
well, you know, when I started out, somebody told me that I needed to get a deck that spoke to me, and little did I know that I was the tarot whisperer, because they all speak to me. You know, I think every deck has a purpose. Now, it may not be one that, you know, speaks loudly to me, but, you know, depending on what type of reader you are, you know, it may work well for somebody else. So I think every deck does have a purpose.
Tell us about the deck whisperer. How did you come up with that?
I don't know. Intuitively, I guess. You know, I think I saw something on the horse whisperer, and I thought, I am the tarot whisperer for sure. You know, because they're all talking to me.
That's so clever.
So when you have something that you call Tiara Tuesday, and we were talking about intuition, and that's just lovely, a nice short YouTube video, and you've got it on your Facebook. I put your link to your Divinationery YouTube channel on there, and I'll put the Facebook link. But can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's a lot of fun. My husband and I play that game.
Yes, Tiara Tuesdays are a way for people to use their divination tools. Now, you may not be a tarot reader. Maybe you do the pendulum. Maybe you do runes. But it's a way to make people get out their divination tools and use them. And what I do is I have a series of exercises, whether it's can you guess what's in this box, or whose picture's in the picture frame, or my latest one was I had a blueprint of a house. And I asked what room my card was in, very much like I had been asked by the lady to find the item she had lost. And that way people are using the decks or using their pendulums and seeing how they answer them. There again, it's like pulling that card a day. You're starting to notice the way that your divination tool communicates with you. And I think it's just all a step in trusting what you're feeling and your intuition and your logic, that combination of everything. It's just a way to get out there and start practicing and developing your intuition. And I get to wear a crown.
and that's really worth it there. I love the crown.
It is,
So you teach tarot, right?
I do teach, and I have mentoring programs, and I also do readings. But really, my heart's in teaching. I love. I'm like I said, I only started in 2011, so I'm very new at this too. I remember what it was like to pick up your first deck of tarot cards and go, what do these kings mean, and this Hierophant, and I remember what that was like. So I like to teach people, from the perspective of, hey, I was there too, I remember, and you can do this. It's not all just about learning 78 meanings. It's about, what do you see? It's just that easy. What do you see in that card? What are you feeling?
Yeah, when I first had I didn't know anything about tarot cards, and this friend of mine was, or this woman was reading at a flea market. This was way back in the 70s, and I thought, I'm going to go see what this is all about. But I was a skeptic. I mean, a big skeptic, and I expected she could read my mind. So I decided I was going to sit there with my arms crossed in front of me and expect her to tell me my life. It didn't work. And she said to me, she says, you know what? She says, you're so close, I can't read you. She says, something's going on about your husband's job. Go get him and tell him he needs a reading. And I thought, yeah, right. She's trying to make more money. It was so bad.
Yeah. Did I read for you? Because you sound like some people I've read for.
No, but I understand the skeptics now, and I laugh with them.
Yes. Speaking of skeptics, when I first started doing readings, and this falls back to trusting your intuition, is I had a lady very closed, very short with her answers. And the first card I got, I heard the word deception. And of course, I'm like, oh no, this must be. Let me pull one of the other cards. This one's wrong. This one slipped. But again, I got a strong, this person's lying to you. And as a new reader, when you're not, you're just starting out, it's like, gosh, how do I tell this lady that I think she's lying? So I said, the cards seem to be saying that you're not telling me the whole story. Well, after that, she started opening up. But it's always like stump the reader sometimes, I want you to just tell me everything. It's like going to a doctor and saying, just guess what's wrong with me. You're the doctor. Come on. So,
yeah. That was brave of you.
It's tough, though, when, you go back to how do you develop that courage to trust what you're seeing without just, putting your feet to the fire almost and going out there and reading for people. So that's where those intuitive exercises, I think, really help people to be able to see, hey, you're doing a good job, you're right on, and not have the confrontation or the fear.
And I think it helps people develop their clairs. You know, some people see things, or some people hear things, or some people, you know, you just know, have that knowing. And I think it helps you develop what your strongest sense is, and you can develop other ones too. But we usually have one or two that are or more, you know, that work for us, or you know, or our guests.
You know, intuition's just like a muscle. The more you develop it, you know, the more that things are going to open up for you, the more those light bulbs are going to come on, the more that you use it.
That's true. When I took a class on pastoral counseling, the guy who was teaching it, he told us that the people who need to hear what you have to say will be drawn to you. And even if you're wrong, you will have planted a seed.
Right.
That was what got me the courage to go out and say what I saw.
Yeah, and you know, you never know what you've said, even though they may put on that brave face and may not be telling you everything at the reading. You don't know what they go home and reflect on, and you know, you may have been more right on than you realized.
And I think it opens up people too to learn to work more collaboratively with you, because they see in a reading when it's just like you say, you know, it's more of working, you know, this is what I'm coming for, and kind of working on being part of the reading. So I think it helps people too, you know, once they've had a couple of readings, to say, okay, you know, I can be part of the reading and get more out of this reading by participating.
Exactly, yes.
Sharing and actually seeing, you know, if it's in person, I do maybe half and half, but a lot of my in-person readings, you know, it's like I collect decks, and because I like art. But, you know, people will look at a deck, and there's some deck that really, you know, resonates with them. And then when we're reading, there's something I don't see that they see that really jumps out for them. And it wasn't what they came for, but it's something that they needed to talk about. And then we kind of jump off for that. So I think that's helpful too.
It's very helpful when they participate, you know, with you, because they're only really helping themselves. Their life is a big puzzle, and maybe they're just coming in because one or two pieces aren't making sense. Well, the more of that picture that they'll fill in for you, the easier and smoother it is to go through that reading. You know, if they'll work with you instead of, you know, going in there very negative and thinking, you know, you tell me everything. So,
do you want to tell people how they can get in touch with you to do classes, or do you do group classes, or TV? You could do it on Google Hangout or anything.
Absolutely, I can work through Google Hangout or Skype. Right now I'm just doing the one-on-ones, but I am working, and this is something I just started, I'm working on an herb class, which is another one of my loves, and that will be a group type of setting. But to get in touch with me, you can find out about my readings and my mentorship program on divinationery.blogspot.com. Divinationery also has a Facebook group and a YouTube channel, and it's just a super group of people where you can be open, you can ask questions, and everybody jumps in there to help. My email is busybeingfabulous@mail.com, so if you want to get in touch with me by email, you can do that as well.
Oh, great. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for putting that in the chat room. Divinationery.blogspot.com.
Correct. Yes, and Divinationery is spelled Divinationery. Attionery. So it's like divination with ERY at the end.
I kept hoping I would say it right.
Well, hey, that's okay. Close enough.
You talked about your herb class. In one of your videos, you had just a great, very simple. People are always saying, "Well, how do I dry them? Do I put them in the closet? Do I put them in the barn? Are they?" And you had this great. Can you tell your technique that you had?
Oh yes, my top-notch technique that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. No, not at all. This technique came from just trial and error of using everything from simple paper towels and books to dry my herbs, which never seemed to dry correctly. They either rotted or got nasty before they dried. I even have this huge machine that I had for making paper that has a tire jack on it that really presses down and squeezes all the water out. Even that wasn't working. And so I developed this way that allows air to just go through and dry your herbs, and it is a knee-high stocking, a woman's knee-high stocking. Put your herbs in there, tie a knot on the top, and hang them up outside, and they will be dry, usually within 24 hours, but depends on where you live. If it's really wet, it can take 2 or 3 days, as opposed to a week to try to dry any other way. This is quick. It allows air to flow through and dries them super fast and all the way through. So you don't have any wet pieces of herb still left over.
Oh, what a good idea. What do you do with them afterwards?
Then the knee highs? Or her herbs? The herbs depends on what I use the herbs for. Now, there is, first of all, let me tell you what an herb is, because a lot of people think an herb is just something that you can cook with or you can ingest. But an herb is any plant that you can use for its vibration or energy. So even weeds can be herbs depending on what you want to use them for. So most of the time I use my herbs for either incense or sacred fires on my altar, certain blends, depending on what the herb's energy is. Like the one you talked about earlier is the lady's mantle. That one would be a good one for any type of blend that has to do with psychic powers or courage. So you can put them in blends and use them that way. I hesitate to say the word spells because a lot of people have very negative feelings about witchcraft and spells. But when you think about it, a manifestation is only spell work. They're the exact same thing, no matter what you call it. So you can use these herbs with other correspondences that have the same energy, whether it be a tarot card or a gemstone, and you can put these all together for your manifestation or your spell work. So I use herbs, and I also use them in cooking as well. So I have a lot of uses for my herbs. I grow most of my own and dry them, and they tend to actually work a lot stronger in my blends when I have grown them and I have put the energy into them myself to grow them and take care of them and dry them, and they tend to work a lot better for me.
Do you? Is there a certain time of day where you pick your herbs, where you harvest them?
I am not so much into these cycles that way. I live in the desert, and so right now temperatures are in the hundreds. So for me, I either gather them very early in the morning or later in the evening. But for me, I usually really gather them on a need type of basis. So as I need them, I'll go harvest them and gather them. And, of course, you thank Mother Earth or nature for providing this for you, and I have a little ritual I do with them as well when I harvest them.
Do you sell them to people?
I know I haven't sold them, although I've given them freely out to friends that I've, come in contact with through Facebook and on the Internet. I think with my herb class, though, I am going to set up bundles to provide to the students that attend the class, so they'll have this little pack of herbs to start with for themselves.
That sounds like a good idea. You were talking about weeds being herbs. What kind of weeds? Fluffy dandelions, Pamela said, they're awesome for dispersing unwanted energies.
Oh, and they make a great tea, too. But let's talk about this, because we mentioned it a little bit before the show about how I really want people to notice that magic is all around them. It's right outside their front door. It's not necessarily a flower or a tree or something you'd think of as an herb. But tell me some characteristics of weeds, either one of you. Just what, you've had weeds in your lawn. What about them? Tell me about them.
Well, we have one with a lavender top, little lavender flowers.
Mm-hmm. Do weeds usually do they usually grow pretty slow, or are they pretty, or is that basically what your lawn is made up of, is weeds? It tends to be that weeds grow quickly, don't they?
Yeah, and they can grow through cracks and
Mm-hmm.
They're very resilient.
Yeah, they're resilient and they're aggressive. So if you wanted a manifestation or you wanted a spell that you needed to have courage, or you needed something to happen quickly, or you needed things to multiply quickly, happen quickly, be aggressive if you need to be aggressive, weeds would be perfect for that particular spell because that's their characteristic. Honeysuckle. If you've ever planted a little honeysuckle plant that was so cute and is only like 5 inches tall, and then the next year it has enveloped your entire fence. Or there's another aggressive plant, wisteria. That's another aggressive plant. So just by looking at what the plant does or how it acts, you can draw from that energy. Another one is Dusty Miller's. I had a neighbor give me a Dusty Miller plant, one, because she said, this will be great in your flower bed. It'll help kind of drown out any weeds or grass that grow. That Dusty Miller went crazy, and it jumped the flower bed to the other side of the sidewalk and started growing in my yard. So just by watching, again, what the plant does, what the weed does, you can pick up on its energy sometimes without even looking at a book. Because like tarot, just because something isn't in a book doesn't mean it's wrong. If you feel that that's how you can utilize that card, or that's what you see in that card, that's how you can utilize that plant, then that's what you need to go with.
That is fascinating. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and Pamela was saying she has hops, and that's taken over the shed of where she lives. And then morning glories, they are beautiful, and I planted them one year, and now they've kind of, and I have a bird's garden, so it's a lot of the bird seed, and I just let them come up, organically like they are. But the morning glories, they really entangle themselves around everything. So that might be one. Could you do that to kind of bind something? You can bind something, or you can choke something out of your life. Same with honeysuckles. They will take a blade of grass. I actually had a honeysuckle vine twist itself around a blade of grass, and I pulled both of them. I harvested both of those for some spell work in choking something out of my life.
Oh my gosh!
So
that's going to make people more aware of what they're seeing out there.
Yeah, and that's all part of being a pagan, too, I think, is to become aware of your surroundings. I mean, that's what it's all about, becoming aware of nature. Things that, I hate to say it because I'm probably the worst, too, is we go through life with our heads on our iPhones. Even when we go to restaurants, we're looking down. So often we've just lost touch with what is right in front of our face. And that's why I find herbs so fascinating, is because just without even knowing anything about them, if you'll watch their characteristics, you can easily pick up on how you could utilize them and use nature to help you in whatever you're doing.
Fascinating. So do you know, could you sustain yourself on the herbs that you grow?
No, I don't have a big enough garden, but, I usually grow about 20 herbs every year, and then any ones that I don't grow, you can always purchase. But like I said, there's just something, that extra oomph when you grow it yourself. They seem to be a stronger smell to them, more potent. And I do have a cupboard that's probably got, probably 80 or different herbs. I've even collected things like anthills, old anthills, if you want to use them in something for teamwork. Think about the characteristics of ants. That's not an herb, but it's the same thing with just noticing the things around you. And here in particular, in the desert, we have mesquite trees, and I've harvested a lot of the pods, and mesquite's good for purification. Some people don't like the smell of sage, so you can grind it down to a powder, which I use a coffee bean grinder, and then the husk can be used in like your blends, your sacred fires, and things on your altar. So, and that's some things that I've swapped with other people online. I'll say, look, I live in the desert. I've got tons of mesquite. I'll swap it with you for something in your area. And you'd ask me if I sell. So that's how I actually get a lot of my herbs, is from other people in other parts of the country that say, hey, I've got a lot of wisteria, or I've got, a rose plant. And so we swap that way.
Neat idea.
Yeah.
Can you grow herbs without a lot of sun?
Yeah, I mean, they do require some herbs don't require hardly any sun at all. Some do better on the shady side of the house, but mine are usually, I find that they grow the best when they get morning light. The morning sunlight. Most of my herbs do. And that's like peppermint and lemongrass and lavender, sage, rosemary, some of the real big, the heavy hitter herbs, that everyone knows about. So most of them do require at least some sunlight, but there are those that would grow okay in the shade too. There are a few of the vine ones. I think ivy grows all right in shade.
Never thought of ivy.
Pamela was
herb.
Yeah, ivy kind of takes over. I had a house, and it was taking the grout out. It was hooking itself on and kind of damaging some of the grout. It can be kind of aggressive. It was interesting. Pamela said, I've never heard of this, but she said devil's claw in Mohegans, Texas. She used to collect them and hang them in the window for protection.
Yes. You know what's interesting about these names for herbs, like Eye of Newt and Devil's Claw. Do you know how those came about?
No.
Tell us.
Back in medieval days, a lot of them were illiterate. They couldn't read or write. And so in order to help people find the herbs in the forest, they would describe them some way. They'd say,
of their appearance. Okay.
Yeah, we call it the tongue of frog because it looks like a tongue, or, Eye of Newt. That's actually, I've heard it as a couple of different plants, but one that I think it probably was mustard seed. If you look at mustard seeds, they look like a little eye. So that's how a lot of these got their unusual names.
When are you giving your class?
Well, I just started making up all the PDFs that I want to include, so I would say probably within the next couple of months, but I will announce it on Facebook and on my blog as well.
Well, you're going to have a fantastic class, I can tell by the way you're talking about the herbs to us.
You can tell I love what I do. So
that's
yes,
important.
you're very passionate about it.
Yes, I do, and I there again, I just like people to be able to notice the magic that's right outside their own front door, and we all have it, no matter where you live, in the city or in the country or in the desert or in the mountains. There's ways that nature provides magic to us every day.
And I think we forget to look locally what actually grows in our local area. Like Pamela was pointing out the Devil's Claw, which she said is in the same town that you live in.
Mm-hmm.
To pay attention to, okay, what is that? We walk by it and it looks nice, but, kind of understand what grows local to us and what is that and how can we use that. Like you said, when you plant it, it's more powerful when you plant it. Not that it doesn't have power when we get it from somewhere, but I think locally too, it's kind of like we follow the moon. It's also following what blooms when and what are they.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, and most people don't even think about weeds when they think about doing herbal magic.
I didn't until you told us.
Yeah, I mean, it can be something as readily available as a weed. And you can be putting it into your manifestation and your spell work. So, yeah, I think that people sometimes just miss the obvious, because we're, a lot of, like I said, we're brought and we're surrounded by material stuff, and, we just get out of that connection with nature.
How do you use herbs for health care?
I will ingest herbs myself, but for other people, I don't ever suggest what they should take for what they should ingest, or because I think that can be a very fine line. You don't know about allergies and things like that. So my main study is just using the herbs for magical purposes. Like I said, I'll study and I'll be happy to drink dandelion root tea, but I'm not sure I would ever suggest it to somebody else just because I'm not comfortable with, the medical side of that. Like I said, you don't know if somebody's got an allergy. So my study is mainly just keeping it for magical purposes.
That sounds like a good idea. Very safe.
It is. Yeah, it's very safe.
Yeah, because I would think, they are, like we have pharmaceuticals that have drugs. Herbs help our bodies with different things. So you have to know about what you're taking and how that interacts with maybe other herbs you're taking. So there's a lot of professionals now that are really specializing in that, and will work with you on that in that area that actually have studied and specialized, like you said.
And health food stores are wonderful.
Yes, there's a lot of naturopaths too, more so now than we've ever seen before, that are actually, we're working more naturally with our bodies.
Yes,
if we can.
And didn't our medicines originally come from herbs?
They absolutely did, and I am 100% advocate of going to an herbal, all-natural lifestyle. But there again, there's just so many variables to telling somebody to take a certain herb or ingest it that I just don't feel comfortable with that. I think there's people that are a lot more learned about that, like I said, at the health food stores or people that are actually trained and to do that. So that's why I kind of stick to the magical purposes. I'll be happy, like I said, to take them for myself, but for others, I don't really feel comfortable with that.
It's interesting. Pamela was saying in the chat room that she was lucky her grandmother was a midwife and was very knowledgeable. And she said, for instance, aspirin's found naturally in white willow bark.
Yes. You know, red yeast rice pills are very good and help my father with lowering his cholesterol. And when other cholesterol medicines weren't working, or a lot of times he was finding that the cholesterol medicines made him feel bad, or so he started doing that and saw great results with it.
What was it called? Red yeast rice?
Yeah. Red yeast rice.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, there's so many things.
There is. There's just a ton of herbs out there, and all of them, most of them can be ingested, you know. So, like the dandelion root, that has so many good health benefits for people. So I've done that. I've gone and pulled dandelions, dried them out, and made them into tea.
Can you just pick them and do that, or what? I've seen that, and I wonder, how do people put dandelions in their salads and make tea out of them?
With dandelion root, now you can dry it with the high-tech knee-high method, but what I do is I roast them. Once you pull them, you're going to use just the root, obviously, and they got hairs on them, and you're going to want to kind of pull and clean that off. Then I put them on some aluminum foil and put it at about 250 in my oven for a couple of hours. And then they kind of dry into almost looking like a stick. And you can do it that way, or you can grind them down to a powder. And you can get tea bags or use a tea, I think they're tea sifters. They're little metal balls that you can put your powders in. And use them that way too. So, but I've always roasted mine.
But you can't eat the tops, the flowers?
I think you actually can. I've just known about the dandelion root and the tea, but I think you can eat the flowers. I think they're edible too.
Well, I've put them on salads. I've done the greens, the leaves, and the flowers. Just put them on. Sometimes I'll do a salad. Well, use flowers, for a garnish, and they've always been okay. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm not sure either. But
I was all right with it.
Yeah, you seem okay now. So
right, but like I said.
Yeah, I've always used the root, but I know even in the high dollar spring mixes, they've got dandelion leaves in them. Some of them do. So, yeah, I wouldn't see why the flower wouldn't be edible.
Yeah, Pamela was saying you can use it to make dandelion, the dandelion tops to make the wine.
Oh,
dandelion wine. And I've heard of that.
Sounds good. Yeah, that sounds like a good deal. I need to learn how to make it into wine.
Oh, wow, there's so many ways.
I was going to say, that's a new business for you.
There you go, making the dandelion wine. Then you want the weeds to grow into your yard.
Yeah, I think they're so pretty. I love them.
Yes. And usually they're the ones that you get the most of. So I've never run out of stock of dandelion root just from the ones in my own yard.
Oh, yeah, you can keep replanting them.
Mhm.
Or let them grow wild. Don't mow my dandelions.
Yes.
You'd be out there picking them. Your neighbors will be watching you. What are you harvesting there? What are you picking off your lawn?
What are you doing? Just on the magical side of it, dandelions are good for, like if you want to get in contact with spirits And, all of us as kids have blown on those dandelion puffs. They're good for wishes. When you want to manifest a wish. And there again, it's just looking at what was the plant used for, how did it grow, so.
I like the way you think.
Well, thank you very much.
Enjoy your videos. You always put so much humor into it. It sometimes takes the real seriousness out. You're not afraid. You have such a good sense of humor when you do your videos. I love watching them. And your deck reviews. You are a deck reviewer, and I want to let people know that you review new decks coming out. And is there any particular ones? I know they're all our children, but are there any new ones that you'd like to talk about?
Let's see. A couple of them that I've really liked there's a Sherlock Holmes tarot one by John Matthews, and let me see who else. That one is kind of geared towards one thing, but Sherlock Holmes was always really important to me because my father was big into Sherlock Holmes, and he died in 2010. But this deck, was kind of a reminder, of the love he had and the love he instilled in me for Sherlock Holmes. Let me see. Some of I think the newest one that I like right now is the Halloween Oracle. I'm in love. I love that deck and the imagery by Blue Angel Publishing. And I'm going to do all Halloween decks in October, so I've just got finished filming the introductory part to those videos, but that's one that I'm going to be reviewing in October. Let me see. I think as far as all-time favorites, I like the Wildwood Tarot. And then my favorite Oracle deck right now is Art Through the Eyes of the Soul, published by U.S. Games. So I have to ask you, ladies, what is your favorite tarot deck?
Go ahead, Maggie.
Okay, well, I have a lot of children, but I guess the ones that I use on a regular basis are the Rider-Waite. I use the Gaian Tarot. Pamela Steele's in the chat room, and I use her Steel Wizard Tarot. That's a beautiful deck.
Oh, I just thought that. I love that.
Do you? Yes. It's just I have a lot of clients that have chosen that deck, and she's coming out with a new one. And I do fairs. And I also am asked at parties to read for children. So she's her Wizard's Pet Tarot is coming out. So I've pre-ordered that, and that looks really the colors and even for myself, I'm a child at heart, so that's a nice one. If people want to take a look at that, and then let's see, I love Carmen Waterman's Rainbow Travelers Tarot. That's a very healing deck. To me, that I've worked with that. So I love that one. Gosh, I know I'm leaving some out. Go ahead, Jean.
That's with me too, because it's like accepting an award. You feel like you have, I'd like to thank this deck and this deck. And
you're just
yes, you're forgetting somebody that,
Right. The Chrysalis Tarot, that is a beautiful deck. I've been working with that, and that's a little not as traditional as the Rider-Waite Smith deck. So, but it's very interesting. It's very beautiful. I've got some very powerful readings from that.
But with those decks, because I love any type of Pamela Coleman Smith based decks, the ones that aren't though, I find make me think a little bit more and use my intuition a little bit more instead of. Sometimes when you're panicked, you flip right back to those keywords.
Right.
You're going, hangman, sacrifice, Five of Swords, bully. With those ones that aren't like that, you are actually forcing yourself to use that intuition more.
That's right. And each deck creator, they do their designs or call the cards something different, or with Pamela's Steel Wizard, had the additional cards. so that you could use. So yeah, it does. It does stretch you, and it does. It provides you with more of a rich reading, I think.
Yes, I agree.
Well,
what about you, Jean?
I learned on the Rider-Waite, of course, Waite-Smith, and then I went to the Robin Wood, which I don't use very much, but I want to use them more. My main deck is the Voyager, James Wanless. I like the Gaian deck. I haven't used it very much. And then there's the Angel Power Tarot cards. I like them, but I don't really do them on a regular, not for clients. I like to pull them like for the end of a reading to sum it all up. And I want to get the Steel Wizard. I'm not a big tarot collector. I have more angel cards, I think, than tarot.
Yeah. Have either of you ladies ever blended decks together? It's not something I've done, but as of late, I got one deck called the Symbolon, and it's got 78 cards, but it's really not a tarot deck. It's very different, but it was for past life, and I was beginning to wonder how often I was going to use it, because, how often do you have to do past life or something along that lines? So I tried blending it with the you've got me off track there, with the Pamela Coleman Smith deck, and it did fantastic. So now I use it all the time, blending it with that deck. Have you ladies ever done that before with cards?
Well, we learned how to do that in the Certified Angel course deck. We were doing a bunch of different angel card blendings. But other than that, no, but I've thought about it.
I saw your video, and that deck that was very interesting to me, because I blend decks. I also blend oracles with decks, and I also blend Lenormand with tarot, because I use Lenormand houses sometimes for tarot cards. But that particular deck really did blend very well. I was really impressed with how I saw that work with the cards.
It's just almost close enough to be tarot, but then it's not. So it did really work well with the tarot cards.
Do you do the Lenormand decks?
I'm learning, and there are several very wonderful people out there that are bound and determined to teach me, but I don't feel as comfortable with Lenormand as I do tarot, but I'd love to learn it.
Well, I've heard that the Lenormands are like, what you see is what you get, and not to use your intuition. And I don't know that I couldn't help but use my intuition.
That's a tough one, because, pretty soon we're wanting to tell people what the squiggly line on the card means, and what the pink flower means in relation to their reading. You can't shut it off once you turn it on. It's very hard.
Yeah, I think there's two kind of schools in looking at the Lenormand. There's the very, doing the Grand Tableau or doing the Block of Nine or reading it, very traditional, pairing cards. You can do a lot with it, knighting. But then there's also, and I think Donna Leigh does this beautifully in her videos. There's also some, it's not the same like tarot with all the symbols and the intuition, but there are some intuitive hits. So I think she probably explains it best as, you can, read it exactly as it is, but you can also, I love Carrie Parrish's Magpie Oracle little charms. She's got a new set out, and they're more of, the Magpie Oracle is all Lenormand symbols. And I've used that at fairs. After a reading, I'll ask people to pick out an odd number. And what usually happens is sometimes I'll read them like Lenormand, but usually people pick on what's on their mind, what's kind of happening, because I'll have them look at them, just not pick them randomly. And they kind of make a story out of it, and it's something they've been thinking about. So I use those very, very differently.
Yes, I was just drooling over those her new Magpie Oracle set the other day.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Yes, they are.
Ivy says after going through a tarot reading, the client wants specific answers. That's when the Norman comes in. So that's a good thought.
Yeah, that is. That's very good.
Well, would you believe we've reached the top of the hour?
Man, that went fast.
It sure did. Would you like to leave our listeners with something profound?
Yes.
You've already done that. But I need a message.
Yes, my message is to always keep calm and tarot on. We are always our own worst critic. So just believe in yourself, believe in your intuition. You can do it. And come see our intuitive exercises on Divinationery. Let us help you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. We're all in this together. So.
Oh, well, I certainly thank you for that. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
That's okay.
But, you are a great guest, and oh my goodness, I learned so much about herbs I never even thought of, and looking at my world differently.
Well, thank you for having me on. I have enjoyed it, and I have loved connecting with the two of you on Facebook. So it has just been an honor for me to be able to talk to you two.
Oh,
well,
thank you so much, Beth, and I hope you'll come back before you start your herb class, and we can talk about that, and you can let everybody know that it's available, because you certainly have a lot to teach people, and I think that's so interesting.
I'd love to come back, definitely.
Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Same here.
And everyone in the chat room said thank you, and they enjoyed it, and it was so much fun, so I just wanted to pass those on to you.
Thank you. I like I said, I have looked forward to this, and I love talking with both of you.
Thank you, and I want to learn more about herbs, so we'll have you back and you can talk about your class.
Well, now this is motivating me to get those PDFs done. So
yes,
well,
we're
let
all
us
waiting.
know.
That's right. Now I have people waiting. I sure will.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth.
Day. Oh, that was fun, wasn't it?
Oh, it's so interesting. She has just such a wide scope of interests, and she presents it with so much fun. She's just got a great sense of humor. I love her YouTube videos because I always learn something new. If you're looking at purchasing a deck, it's like, okay, I don't, I kind of like to see a little more or how someone might use it. And so, I love looking at her videos with that, and the herb ones I was fascinated with. So she has, and I love playing Tiara Tuesday. My husband and I, we look every Tuesday for that and try our hand. And he's gotten quite good. He's gotten quite good at it.
I didn't understand what it was all about until she explained it. So now I want to go and do it. So next week we have Jennifer Seek on. She's going to be an interesting guest.
Yes, I think she has her chakra book is coming out.
Yeah, she can tell us all about that. Well, that's something we didn't ask Beth about. We can talk about that next time too.
That's right. That'll be a good show. Jenny's a lot of fun, and she teaches classes also.
I'm looking forward to that. So, Maggie, what's new on your agenda?
Let's see. Other than we've been spending half of our time at the beach and half of our time here. So I've been reading there, reading here. I've got a fair coming up, doing a Pagan Pride Fair in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that's a whole weekend. So that's a lot of fun. You just get to meet a lot of people. There's a lot of they have the stage, so you have a lot of music, drumming, dancing. So it's always fun to do. It's usually every I think that's September 19th, the weekend of the 19th. I can't think of. I think I'm going to be like you. We're going to be on Jenny Watson's Confessions, and I'm going to be talking about healing with the Reiki work I do with animals and another technique.
That'll be great. I'll be on there talking about healing your inner child tonight, and that'll be.
That's right. It's going to air Sunday, right? Yeah.
Sunday, yeah.
And then we're going to be on Mary's show Saturday, kind of just talking about what's up and our upcoming shows.
That'll be a blast.
Yeah, and I think that's it.
I love talking with Mary and you, and who knows what'll come up.
That's right. I think that's at 10 o'clock on Saturday Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, same channel here. So where can people find you if they want to get a reading?
Okay, well, they can find me at Maggie Moon Tarot, and I also have my YouTube videos. I do a Vibes for the Week, and that's at Maggie Moon Tarot. And I also, they can find me at Harmony Light Reiki, when that's where I do my energy work. I work with people and their pets. And for readings, I'm an intuitive coach, and I use some of my tools are tarot and numerology. I work with Lenormand. I work with the angels. So I do a variety of things depending on, and I work interactively with people, collaboratively with clients. So and what about you, Jean? And I do my services through phone, Skype, email, and in person.
And we're both.
So where can we find you?
We're both on Psychics at Attune. You've heard us on the radio, and you can get a reading from us at Psychics at Attune. And we're both on the Psychic Triad.
That's right.
.org, yeah, that's .org. You can find me at angelsloveyou.com. I've had that site up for a long time. And my new site is jeanmoy.com, because people on Facebook know me as Jean Moy. I'm starting to put videos up. I've got 2, and that's on my YouTube channel. And I'll talk more about that as I get that more organized. And I do astrology, tarot. I teach you how to let go of some of your anxiety with EFT tapping and all kinds of things. And you can find me on Skype and phone. I don't do readings in person unless you know me, but chat, yeah.
Well, I love your new videos. I'm enjoying those. You put one out today, so people can check that out.
So this has been a lot of fun, and thank you everybody for coming, Ivy and Pamela, and a couple of guests that we don't know who they are, and Loretta. So I hope everybody has a wonderful week until we see you next week.
Have fun.
And remember,
and we look forward to seeing everyone.
Remember, you have asked.
Bye-bye.
And all you have to do is ask. Till next week, then. Bye.